And uh, to introduce myself, I have 6+ years of experience in teaching GK, and I'll be the knowledge partner here with you. We are going to embark on a journey. So treat it as a journey uh, rather than just, lectures. We'll embark on this journey and we will try to learn more of conceptually and more exam oriented, high scoring topics of polity, geography, economy, history. I am here to help you to learn better, understand better, and score better. My idea is to impart the knowledge to all of you in complete English. The idea is we have many excellent teachers in both the languages, many languages, Hindi, English. But my idea is to keep it into English, and we'll learn topics better. We'll learn topics conceptually better, and we'll see what are the important questions that can be asked, what are the important PYQs, any tricks we can get. Everyone is teaching the same thing on YouTube and everywhere, but what special we can do, how better can we revise? We will see everything one by one, topic by topic. Idea is to understand the GK topics better. GK is usually feared among candidates. That shouldn't be the scenario. So my idea is to make GK a fun learning process for you people, and that's what we are starting this journey. You can call it as a Dhurandhar series. Okay, so this Dhurandhar series will start with the first topic of today, that is the history of making of Indian Constitution. The history of making of Indian Constitution. Okay, sir, we have studied a lot about Indian Constitution, but our Constitution also has a history, correct? Our constitution also has a proper history. If I ask you that, okay, tell me how much time did it take to make our constitution, what will be your answer? Think, how much time did it take? Sir, it took almost 3 years to make the constitution. That is the rough answer. Am I right? To be more precise, it took 2 years, 11 months, 18 days to make the constitution, to be precise. But what if I say that it actually took almost 180 years to make the constitution? You would be laughing on me, definitely, right? Sir, how it can be 180 years, sir? If you see the background of the constitution, if you see how the constitution came into being act by act, law by law, phrase by phrase, the date goes back to 1773 when the first act foundation was laid for our constitution. Our constitution is not merely the work of those 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days. It has been derived from various laws, acts, reforms which Britishers did in India. We are here to learn that. We are here to not just learn 2 years, 11 months. We are here to learn almost 180 years. Don't get afraid that, oh my God, so much we have to learn. No, it's just basic concepts, repeated themes which come into the exam. Be clear, make up your mind that we have to stick to what comes in the exam. We have to score better. And here onwards, I'll take this guarantee that I'm definitely going to add up to your marks. Take it as a challenge and tell me later that, sir, you helped me in my marks. Or okay, let us start the history. So I'll show you a brief, uh, you can see on the screen that British acts made the constitution evolve slowly. What do I mean by that? You can see here from 1773, from 1773 to 1947, we had so many acts going on, correct? Why I have brought this flow chart why I have brought this flowchart is to make you understand that how the constitution evolved. We just mug up, oh, Charter Act 1773, Charter Act ye, Charter Act wo. We learn all that, we mug it up. No, mugging up will not help. Mugging up helps up to a limit. If you have a conceptual understanding, it will help you better. So the story starts from the Act of 1773. Then we have various other acts in which these components came into our constitution. Now, what are those? Centralization and control came from 1773. Administrative setup came from 1833. Representation began from 1861. Representation, democracy, voting, communal representation, it began in 1909. We will see not just the things which we took from the Britishers, we'll also see which we didn't take into the constitution. A responsible government was introduced. Then federal structure. It will not be wrong if I say our constitution is 60 to 70% from this only. 60 to 70% just from a single reform. Our constitution is right. Correct? So these are the things. This is why I brought this chart for you. Law commissions were made, legislative councils were made from this act. Then we had separate electorates, diarchy, provincial autonomy, federalism, division of powers. This is how our constitution progressed, evolved, to be honest. Now, coming to the academic part, act by act will start. First act was Regulating Act of 1773. It was the first initiative by the Britishers to supervise and regulate the activities of East India Company. Earlier, please remember, it was just East India Company which was here. Okay, it was just East India Company which was here, which was ruling. Correct? Then it elevated Governor of Bengal. So there was a Governor of Bengal. Correct? Governor of Bengal to the position of Governor General of Bengal. Bengal, today what Delhi for India is, earlier it was Bengal, the capital, the center of power. So you can see the Governor of Bengal, earlier called as Fort William, the governor was made Governor General of Bengal. Who was the first Governor General? Warren Hastings. Multiple times asked questions. So whatever I mark as star, this is a multiple times asked question. Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of Bengal, and he was made the same in Regulating Act of 1773. Very, very important. Okay. So Regulating Act of 1773 marks the first step by the Britishers. Coming to the next one. In this act, an executive council of 4 members was made. How many? 4. Please remember, very, very important. Exams like SSC, RRB, they love facts and figures. They love dates. They love numerical values. So, 1773 Act, 4-member council was established to assist whom? To assist Governor General, Warren Hastings. And there was no separate legislative council. So executive council was there. It was helping the Governor General. Governor of Bombay and Madras were made subordinate to Governor General of Bengal. So now the Governor General of Bengal was superseding the governors of Bombay and Madras. Fort William. Today's Calcutta is Fort William. Also, a Supreme Court was set up in 1774. Now, today's Supreme Court, which is in Delhi, it will not be wrong if I say that Supreme Court was earlier set up in West Bengal, Calcutta, or you can say Fort William. Company officials, they were forbidden in engaging in any private trade, and the court of directors was required to report its revenue details. So, quick important exam oriented points. First initiative 1773. Governor of Bengal made as Governor General of Bengal. An executive council was made of four members to assist whom? To assist Governor General. Correct? Then it was governors of Bombay and Mumbai. Sorry, the governors of Bombay and Madras. Bombay and Madras were made subordinate to Governor General of Bengal. Company officials were forbidden and court of directors was there. Please remember COD, not cash on delivery. Huh? This is not cash on delivery. This is court of directors. We will remember it like this. It will be used for reference going forward. Court of directors. Okay. Four important points. Next came Pitt's India Act. From the Act of 1773, it was seen that there were various issues. There were many issues in Act of 1773. So the Britishers thought, okay, well, let us bring one more act. In Pitt's India Act, distinction was made. Now, what distinction, sir? The commercial and political roles of the company. Till now, roles were mixed, combined. But now, Britishers thought, okay, East India Company is there, no? So let us distinguish its commercial roles and political roles. Commercial activities were managed by COD, while political matters were handled by Board of Control, BOC. So just remember like that. Commercial, Court of Directors. Cash on delivery is there, no? Cash on delivery is what? Cash, commercial. So remember like that. Now can you remember? Okay. So commercial, Court of Directors, political, Board of Control. Number of members in Governor Council were reduced to three. Earlier, how many were there? Four. Now they reduced it to three. Indian affairs were brought under direct supervision of British government. Companies' territories in India were officially referred to as British possessions, and separate councils for governors were established in Madras and Bombay. So, very important point. Whatever I'm marking as a star, please make sure you're going through it again and again. Okay, very, very important. Okay, so these are the important points. Next, two reforms done. Then came Charter Act. Now, sir, what is Charter Act? Charter Act is nothing but a set of code and rules, series of code and rules which Britishers bought to make the reforms more efficient. Correct? Now, what is the first Charter Act? So, this was in 1813. The British ended the East India's monopoly over trade in India. Now, what is monopoly, sir? 100 times we have studied this. Monopoly means to do business but alone. There will be no competitors. This was ended. So the British ended East India, East Indian companies' monopoly over trade in India, allowing all British subjects to engage in trade. Now other companies will also come. So imagine just like that Reliance is there and only Reliance is allowed to sell its products in India. That is called monopoly. And when I allow Airtel, Vodafone also, so that is called not monopoly. Now it becomes an open market. Correct? Plus 20. Always do plus 20 for Charter Acts. So now what do I mean by plus 20? 1813 plus 20 becomes 1833. Came the next Charter Act, 1833. It redesignated Governor General of Bengal as Governor General of India. Now see the power of Bengal. First, it was made Governor General of Bengal. Governor of Bengal was made as Governor General of Bengal. Now that Governor General of Bengal was made Governor General of India. First Governor General was Warren Hastings. Now it became Lord William Bentinck. Super important. Okay. Lord William Bentinck became the first person to hold this title. Very, very important. I am just sharing the most important points, exam oriented, highly scoring points. Please don't skip any slide. Make note of it. I'm here. We'll be covering this whole syllabus of SSC and RRB. All four subjects I told GK, but I need your support and dedication. Okay, so we are done with Regulating Act of 1773. We are done with Pitt's India Act. We are done with Charter Act of 1813 and 1833. Now, guess that 1833, if it is the date, when will be the next charter? When should be the next charter coming? After 1813, it was 1833. Think. Any guesses? 1853. I told you, plus 20. So add 20 to it, 1853. Just before that, two more points on Act of 1833. What is it? This act marked the final stage of centralization of administration. Sir, what is centralization? Whenever I'm trying to bring power to one common center, that is called centralization. And when I'm transferring power from center to the peripheries, this is called decentralization. Panchayat and municipality, which came, is decentralization of power. The Britishers were centralizing power, and Charter Act of 1833 was the last act they centralized administration. Quite important. It initiated the formation of central legislature as legislative powers were taken away from provinces of Bombay and Madras. So see, now Bombay and Madras, they are losing their powers further. And also, it ended the commercial functions of East India Company, converting it into a purely administrative organization. Important. Okay. So, these things are very important. Please have a note of it. 1833, the last act which did centralization in British administration. Plus 20 comes plus 1853. So next came the next Charter Act, 1853. What it did, 1853, first thing it did was it separated legislature and executive. Of whom? Of Governor General's Council. Earlier four members, then one was subtracted, became three. Now the legislative and executive roles were separate. Okay. Central Legislative Council was expanded to six members, of which four were nominated by the provincial governments of Madras, Bombay, Bengal, and Agra. Okay. Also, it introduced open competition as the basis for recruitment into civil services. You can directly relate it with today's UPSC. Kind of UPSC tracks its origin to this, thereby opening Indian civil services to all. So whenever UPSC comes to your mind and whenever someone asks you about UPSC, start with Charter Act of 1853. Okay, this is why I told you these acts, our Indian constitution is not a result of just 2 or 3 years. Correct? This is one of the major act which impacted it. Okay, so this is important. This is important. These are multiple times MCQs. Multiple times they have been asked. Okay, so the Charter Act of 1853 separated legislative and executive roles of the Governor General's Council. Please by heart this. Now, how to remember it? 50s, no? In 50s, it was the first. Before that, it was 33. But in 50s, it was first. 50-50 means separate, like distribution, no? 50-50. Power separated. 50-50. Like that, you remember. 1853, separation of legislative and executive roles. And opening of competition, Indian civil services to all. So remember like UPSC, something like that, you remember from 1853. GK, you can never learn the whole GK just by mugging up. You need to know the concepts and you need to develop mnemonics, stories, tricks on your own to by heart things to keep them in the memory for a longer term. We need to keep it for a longer term. So let's go forward. Then came the Government of India Act 1858. But let's go a bit back. Something happened before this act. What happened before this act? Any guesses? Why they had to bring a Government of India Act? See, 1813 was the first Charter Act. Then came 1833. So we were adding 2020, no? We were adding 20, right? Then what happened suddenly? Why this thing act came just in how many years? Merely 5 years. Why? Last act was in 1853 because something called Revolt of 1857 happened. And this revolt made Britishers, you can say, shocked, completely shocked. The extent, the power, the coverage of this revolt was so huge that Britishers had to bring a Government of India Act 1858 separately. They were afraid, you can say. They became afraid. Afraid of what? O- Obviously, of the Indian unity. The Government of India Act 1858 transferred the control of India from East India Company to British Crown. See, such a huge step. Now, see, if you mug up, okay, Government of Act 1858, transfer of power to EIC, from EIC to British Crown, will not stay for long. If you correlate it with Act of Revolt of 1857, you will never forget it. So my idea is challenge to forget. You try to forget and show it to me. Okay. So Government of India Act 1858, it transferred the powers from EIC, East India Company, to the British Crown. Now Britishers were like, we cannot trust on EIC. They are just, spoiling. Okay. So we'll keep all the powers with ourselves, British Crown. Okay. The authority was of Crown was exercised through a Secretary of State for India. So see, earlier it was Governor General. One person was there. Now one more person was introduced. That two people will rule now. Secretary of State for India will also join. He was also assisted by a council that was 15 members. 15 members. So now there are two councils. One was assisting Governor General. Now there is another council which is assisting the Secretary of State for India. Very important points. Okay. Please remember these points. Okay. I'm sorry, the star might not look like a star, but assume it is a star. Okay. And these points which I'm marking are very, very super important points. Okay. Let's move forward with these reforms in this. The Secretary of State was given full control over Indian administration functioning through the Viceroy. The Governor General of India, the name was changed. The Namkaran changed. They got so much afraid that Namkaran only changed. Now Namkaran, what is the new name? Viceroy. What is the new name? Viceroy. The Governor General was redesignated as Viceroy. Who was that first person? Lord Canning became the first Viceroy. Now these firsts are very important for exam and candidates and aspirants like us. First, Governor of Governor General of Bengal, Warren Hastings. First Governor General of India, William Bentinck. First Viceroy, Lord Canning. Can you remember WWC? In childhood, we used to see WWE. Correct, no? Fighting wala. Don't remember that. Now you remember WWC. Okay? Warren Hastings, William Bentinck, Canning. Like that, you remember WWC. First Governor General of Bengal, first Governor General of India, William Bentinck, first Viceroy, Canning. WWC, no more WWE. The act abolished both the Board of Control and Court of Directors. They told that a Board of Control also waste, Court of Directors also waste. What you did, such a big revolt happened. What were you doing? Okay, so Board of Control are BOC and COD. Both got terminated. Okay, so I hope that things are getting pretty clear to you. Things are getting more, uh, what to say, simple and exam oriented, right? So, yes, we'll move forward. Next, these many reforms, still they had to bring one more act. Now, sir, so many acts they are bringing. Why can't they just bring one act and repair everything? This question can come, no? That, sir, let them bring just one act and repair everything. But why are they bringing act after every 5 year, 2 year, 10 years? Because the dynamics of the situation were changing. India was evolving, customs were changing, laws were changing, society was changing. So that is why time and upon they were bringing these acts. Indian Council Act of 1861 introduced Indian representation. From here, see the constitution. Indian representation starts from here. And legislative council through non-official members with 3 Indians to join the council. So if you see, the constitution connects back to this Indian representation. Legislative councils were established at both central and provincial levels. Today we have states and union territories. At that time we didn't have states. They were different. We had provinces. So legislative councils, central and provincial level. It mandated inclusion of Indians as non-official members. Act formally recognized the portfolio system, directly asked questions many times. Directly asked questions many times. It also initiated decentralization by C. They were centralizing earlier, now they started decentralizing because they got to know that if we keep the power in one core, it will not be helpful for Britishers. And they distributed it to Bombay and Madras. Very, very important act. If the question comes that Indian councils, which act introduced Indian representation, what will be your answer? It will be Act of 1861. Very, very, very important. Please keep in mind, these things have to be remembered. Okay, let us move forward. Then came an act of 1892. Now, what is there? It introduced the system of indirect elections through nomination. Do you see the word elections here? This is one of the most important part of this. So whenever you're studying about the constitution is democracy is nothing without this. So whenever you're studying about the history of the constitution, you should know which act made indirect elections. So it was Act of 1892, super important. The power of these councils were increased, allowing them to discuss the budget. Can you see now from where the budget is coming? The budget which our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman ma'am presents in the parliament. So discussion of the budget was allowed. So I'll keep this video into two parts. I will not overload you with the knowledge. Okay. What we'll do is in the next this thing part of it, we'll start with the Act of 1909. And then we'll also see some important questions, if possible, on these history of making of Indian Constitution. But after these two videos, after Dhurandhar 1 and Dhurandhar 2, you should be ready with any question asked on this topic. And I'm sure if you follow my videos, you will be ready. Don't worry at all. Okay? We will give a quick revision now. Revision is very important. Always remember, whenever you're studying for any exam, the most important point is RRR. Have you seen the movie RRR? What a brilliant movie, right? But it is not RRR. It is revision, revision, revision. Okay. So First, I showed you a, you can say, flow chart of the acts. Then we started with Regulating Act 1773, the first initiative of the Britishers, where East India Company, it tried its first initiative. It elevated Governor of Bengal as Governor General of Bengal, and Warren Hastings was the first member to become the Governor General. It was the first initiative. Then came Executive Council of 4 members was established, correct, to help the Akele, single alone Governor General cannot rule. So think like that. Can just one person rule? No, he needs support. What is that support? It is that Executive Council which was made, correct. Then the governors of Bombay and Madras, they were made subordinate to Governor General of Bengal. Okay, a Supreme Court was set up in Fort William, Calcutta. Please remember this. So, whenever this year comes to your mind, 1773, please remember Supreme Court. This was the first time a Supreme Court was set up in India. Today, the Supreme Court is in Delhi, but earlier it was in Fort William. Okay, cash on delivery. Remember, what is this cash on delivery? Court of Directors, commercial functions. Then came Pitt's India Act. What it did? Pitt's India Act made a distinction between commercial and political roles of the company. That commercial roles will be different, political will be different. The COD, Court of Directors, was given the commercial functions, and the Board of Control was given the political functions. Now remember Act of 1858. What happened in Act of 1858? Both of them were cancelled. Correct? No, both of these bodies got cancelled. We'll come to it. Correct? Members of General Council was reduced to 3. Earlier it was 4. Correct? Indian affairs were brought under direct supervision. Companies' territories were officially referred to as British possessions. Correct? And separate governance were established for Madras and Bombay. Charter, now from here starts Charter Act. We studied Charter Acts every 20 years. 1813 was the first one, correct? So Charter Act of 1813, it stopped British monopoly trade over India, allowing all British subjects to engage in trade with India. Now every company can come and invest. Add 20 to it, came 1833, the next Charter Act. It redesignated Governor General of Bengal as Governor General of India. And who was that first person? Lord William Bentinck. Please remember WWC. Warren Hastings, William Bentinck, and Lord Canning. Next, this act also was the last act for centralization of administration. Also, it initiated the formation of central legislature as legislative powers were taken away from provinces of Bombay and Madras. Okay, very important. It ended the commercial functions of the East India Company. Then came Act of 1853. Remember 50, 50, 50. So 50 se kya? 50 is legislative and executive functions and roles of the Governor General's Council were separated. 50-50 separation. Okay. 6 members were added from Madras, Bombay, Bengal, and Agra. And UPSC. Please remember, civil services, Indian civil services were open to all. Super important. Then what happened? Revolt of 1857 happened. Revolt shocked the Britishers. They got afraid and they brought what? They brought Act of 1858. Okay. It transferred the control from East India Company to British Crown. They were so much afraid. Remember it like that. They got so much afraid from this revolt that they transferred the power from EIC to British Crown. Now, British Crown will directly monitor from Britain. Authority of Crown was exercised by Secretary. A new post was introduced. Secretary of State for India. He was assisted by a Council of Indian consisting of 15 members. So now see 15 people to help him. So you can imagine how much powers he had. Secretary of State was given full administration. Now they changed the name also. See how much afraid. They changed the name from Governor General of India to Viceroy. Who became the first person? Lord Canning. And the act abolished the what? BOC and COD. BOC and COD both. That much afraid they became. Correct? After that, we saw Act of 1861, in which first time the representation of Indians happened in the Viceroy Executive and Legislative Council. Okay? Then it mandated inclusion of Indians. Portfolio system came from 1861. Portfolio. What is a portfolio? Portfolio means like railway minister, finance minister, defense minister. This is a portfolio. It also initiated decentralization. Now they saw the revolt and now they are decentralizing the powers to Bombay and Madras. Finally, in 1892 came the act where the first time Indians saw something like elections. These councils were increased, allowing them to discuss the budget. Now the budget also could be discussed. Earlier it was passed just like that without any inputs. So now they were discussing the budget. Okay. So friends, this was the first, you can say, video of this topic, of this journey which we started today. And I would like to request you to be with me in the journey. We'll complete the history, making of history of Indian Constitution in the next segment of this video, next part of this video. That is the Dhurandhar 2, Dhurandhar the Revenge. Okay, so this Dhurandhar series, you can say, will solve some questions also asked multiple times in SSC, RRB, and various other exams. Just stick on to me, stick with Oliveboard. The whole team is here to help you. And please give your inputs and how much you like the session. And we'll meet further again. Thank you and have a good time. Thank you.